Something is planted along fence lines all across America right now. Thousands of yards, millions of plants, growing fast, getting tall, looking exactly like privacy, and quietly destroying things. Not just fences, not just flower beds, sewer lines, driveways, foundations, neighbor relationships, and in some states the law itself. I want you to think about the last plant you put along your fence. Actually picture it, where you bought it, what it looked like in the pot, how fast it filled in. Now ask yourself one honest question. Did anyone tell you what it does underground? Did the plant tag mention what happens to your infrastructure in year 6? Did the person at the register explain why certain states have restricted or outright banned it? They did not, because that information is not profitable for them to share. By the time we reach plant number 9 on this list, I want you to go outside and look at your fence line, because there is a real chance something already growing there belongs on this list. And the sooner you know, the cheaper fixing it gets. 9 plants. 9 genuine threats wearing the costume of a solution. Let's go. Plant 1. Leyland cypress and the storm that's coming. Walk into any garden center in America and ask for the fastest, tallest privacy tree available. In most of them, the first thing they'll point you toward is Leyland cypress, 60 to 70 feet at maturity. 3 to 5 feet of new growth every single year, dense, feathery, evergreen. And I am not going to tell you the growth rate is a lie. It is not. Leyland cypress genuinely does what it promises in the first 5 years. What nobody tells you is what the root system is doing while the top is impressing your neighbors. Leyland cypress has almost no structural taproot. The roots spread wide and shallow, sometimes 40 feet in every direction, without the anchoring depth to hold a tree that size under real weather pressure. What this means in practice is that a mature Leyland cypress, with its enormous crown, acting as a sail in high wind, sits on a shallow root platform that cannot reliably hold it upright in wet soil conditions during a storm. Every major storm season across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, arborists field the same call. Leyland cypress, row of them along a fence, one through the neighbor's fence, one through a car, one through something worse. The second problem is Ceridium canker, a fungal disease that enters through any wound in the bark and cannot be treated. Once it establishes, it moves through rows. You lose one tree, then the next, then the next. A decade of growing becomes a chainsaw project and a restart conversation. If you planted Leyland cypress because someone told you it was the right choice for your zone and your yard size, I understand. The growth numbers are real, but the liability at maturity is also real, and almost nobody told you about it. The Thuja green giant gives you the same growth rate in the same hardiness zones, with a root architecture that actually holds the tree up. Same speed, dramatically different risk profile. Keep that in mind before you plant the next row. Plant 2. Hybrid willow reed. The fine print, 6 to 10 feet in a single season. If you have ever seen a hybrid willow advertised, that number is the entire pitch, and it is completely accurate. Here is the sentence that does not appear in any hybrid willow advertisement. Warning: root system actively seeks and destroys underground infrastructure. Willow roots are not passive. They do not simply grow outward and hope to find water. They chase it. They follow moisture gradients through soil in a way that other tree roots simply do not. A hairline crack in a clay sewer pipe 25 feet away, a joint in a septic tank, the drain tile around your foundation. Willow roots will find all of these, enter them, and over the course of 5 to 8 years, collapse them from the inside. The repair bill for a willow root in a sewer lateral runs between $4,000 and $15,000, depending on depth and material. Septic system invasion runs higher. I have spoken with homeowners who replaced the same section of pipe twice without ever connecting it to the beautiful green privacy screen, growing 40 feet away. And the speed, the very thing that makes hybrid willows attractive, is inseparable from the aggression. A slow-growing tree has a slow-moving root system. A tree that puts on 8 feet a year has a root system racing outward at the same pace. In Ohio, certain willow hybrids are regulated as invasive species. They establish in waterways and riparian areas, outcompeting native plants and altering hydrology in ways that take decades to correct. If you are drawn to hybrid willow because of the speed, plant wax myrtle in the south or thuja green giant in zones 5 through 8 instead. 2 to 5 feet of growth per year. Your sewer line stays intact. That trade is worth making. Plant 3, running bamboo. The neighbor lawsuit waiting to happen. I need to be precise here, because there is a bamboo that belongs in gardens and a bamboo that belongs nowhere near a residential fence line. And they are not the same plant. Clumping bamboo Fargesia species, sometimes labeled fountain bamboo or umbrella bamboo, stays where you put it. The clump expands slowly outward from its center. It is genuinely well behaved, provides beautiful privacy in the right climate, and I have no argument with it. Running bamboo is a different category entirely. And running bamboo is almost always what you find in the screening bamboo or fast privacy section of a big box store, because it grows faster, looks more impressive in a pot, and the consequences of planting it take years to materialize, meaning the seller is long out of the equation before the problem arrives. Running bamboo spreads through rhizomes, not roots, rhizomes, horizontal, underground stems that extend rapidly in every direction and send up new shoots anywhere along their length. A single established running bamboo can colonize 20 feet of new ground in a single growing season. It does not pause at your property line. It does not negotiate with your neighbor's garden. It simply continues. Removal is not a weekend project. It is a multi-year commitment. Every rhizome fragment left in soil will resprout. Standard herbicides do not reliably kill bamboo because it processes chemicals through grass family biochemistry. The professional recommendation for eradication is repeated cutting at ground level over a minimum of 3 growing seasons to exhaust the root energy reserves. And even then, sporadic regrowth appears for years afterward. Homeowners have faced legal action from neighbors whose yards were colonized. Municipalities in multiple states have passed ordinances requiring bamboo barrier installation before planting. Real estate attorneys have dealt with disclosure disputes over undisclosed bamboo. This is not a hypothetical liability. It is a documented, recurring one. A properly installed rhizome barrier, 60 mm high-density polyethylene, 18 to 24 inches deep with a 6-inch lip above grade, can contain it. But that barrier requires annual inspection. Any gap and you start the process over. If we love the appearance, plant clumping varieties. If you want a privacy screen, plant something that will not require a real estate attorney to manage. Here is something I want to say directly, because we are roughly a third of the way through this list, and I want to make sure you have the right frame for everything that follows. Every plant on this list was sold in good faith as a legitimate privacy solution. Nobody put these plants on your fence line to cause you harm, but the gap between it grows fast, and it is a good, long-term choice for your specific property is enormous. That gap exists because nobody who profits from selling plants has a financial incentive to close it. That is exactly what this video exists to do. If the information you have heard so far is the kind of information your property and your wallet needed years ago, the subscribe button is right there. This channel comes out weekly with content built around the same principle. The advice you would have gotten from a trusted friend who happens to know exactly what they are talking about, given for free, with nothing held back. Hit that button before we continue. Plant 4, and this one involves your neighbor. Plant 4, English ivy, the fence it will destroy. English ivy has been climbing walls and fences in American gardens for so long that it feels safe, traditional, even sophisticated. The reality of what it does to wood, masonry, and the native plant communities around it has been documented clearly enough that it is now listed as invasive in Oregon, Washington, and multiple other states. But I want to tell you specifically what it does to fences, because that is the damage most homeowners do not see coming until it is too late. English ivy climbs through adhesive rootlets that emerge directly from its stems. These rootlets do not just grip the surface of your fence boards, They penetrate the microscopic cracks in wood fiber. As the ivy grows and the stems thicken over years, those rootlets exert expanding pressure inside those cracks, widening them, splitting the wood from within. A wooden privacy fence, covered in English ivy, holds moisture against the boards permanently, both from the rootlets inside the wood and from the dense leaf mass trapping humidity against the surface. That continuous moisture accelerates fungal rot and insect damage at a rate 2 to 4 times faster than bare exposed wood. When the fence eventually needs replacing, the ivy does not come off in clean sheets. The stems have grown through the fence hardware, around the fence, boards, and into every joint. You cannot remove the ivy without damaging the fence, and you cannot repair the fence without first removing the ivy. In practice, replacing an ivy-covered fence means tearing out both simultaneously and starting over entirely. If you want climbing coverage on a fence, climbing hydrangea on a substantial structure is an alternative that does not structurally compromise what it grows on. But for a dedicated privacy screen, you are always better served by plants that stand independently and leave your fence exactly where you built it. Plant 5. Privet, the plant that followed its berries. Privet feels traditional because it is traditional. Generations of American gardeners planted it, shaped it, trimmed it into precise, formal hedges, and passed the habit on. The problem is that while those gardeners were trimming, the birds were eating the berries and carrying the seeds into the natural areas beyond the property line. Japanese privet, Chinese privet, and European privet are all listed as invasive species across the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and beyond. In natural forests and forest edges throughout the South, privet is one of the primary invasive shrubs, suppressing native understory regeneration. It establishes densely, grows aggressively, and tolerates shade conditions that kill most competitors. Remove it from one section, and it returns from seed the following season. From a pure performance standpoint, privet is also a mediocre privacy plant. It is semi-evergreen across much of its range, which means it drops leaves in cold winters precisely when you most want year-round screening. Maintain it impeccably and it creates a decent formal hedge. Miss a season of trimming, and it becomes an open, leggy structure with more gaps than coverage. The berries are toxic to dogs in quantity. If you have animals who graze the fence line or chew plants, privet creates a recurring seasonal hazard. There are native alternatives in every zone that provide formal hedge performance, with zero invasive liability. American holly in zones 5 through 8. Inkberry holly in wet conditions. If you want the formal clipped appearance privet provides, these are the path forward. Plant 6. Burning bush spectacular for 4 months. Banned in 3 states. I want to acknowledge something openly before I explain why burning bush is on this list. The fall color is extraordinary. There is almost nothing in American horticulture that produces that depth of magenta red in October. The plant earned its name. I understand every homeowner who bought it. Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire have removed it from legal sale. It is listed as invasive in 32 states. More legislation is pending. The mechanism is identical to privet birds. Distribute the seeds widely, and the plant establishes aggressively in disturbed forest edges and natural areas, outcompeting native shrubs that provide actual ecological function. The difference is that burning bush has been marketed more heavily for decades as an ornamental, so the volume of established plants contributing to seed dispersal is enormous. Beyond the regulatory exposure, burning bush is a seasonal privacy plant. It drops every leaf in winter. If you are in Minnesota and you planted burning bush along your north fence line for year-round coverage, you have a privacy screen for 5 months and bare sticks for the other 7. The viewers in this audience most desperate for screening against cold weather exposure get zero return on burning bush from November through April for fall color without the invasive concern or the seasonal coverage failure. Native high bush blueberry, itea or chokeberry provide comparable or superior autumn display with genuine wildlife habitat value. The color payoff exists. You can have it without the liability attached. What I'm about to tell you about plant number 7 is something that experienced gardeners get wrong. Not beginners, not people who just started landscaping their property. People who have been gardening for 20 years, people who know plant names, people who follow reputable gardening channels, and they still make this exact mistake. The reason is that plant number 7 comes in 2 versions. One version is beautiful, native, and perfectly manageable. The other version will consume your fence, your arbor, your neighbor's tree, and your relationship with the person next door. And they are sold side by side in garden centers under the same common name, Plant 7, Asian Wisteria. Know which one you actually have. American Wisteria. Wisteria frutescens and Wisteria macrostachya is a wonderful plant. Native to the eastern United States, manageable with regular pruning, spectacular spring bloom, and genuinely appropriate for residential use, with proper structure. If you have American Wisteria and you maintain it, keep it and enjoy it. Japanese Wisteria and Chinese Wisteria are classified as invasive across the eastern United States and the Pacific Northwest. And more importantly, for anyone considering them for offense, they are structurally destructive in a way that most people do not understand until the damage is already done. Wisteria climbs by twining, wrapping its stems around whatever supports it. In the first years, the stems are thin, and the twining is easy to manage. Over a decade, those stems mature and harden into woody trunks several inches in diameter. The constricting force of mature wisteria, twining around a wooden fence post, is substantial enough to crush it. Documented cases exist of wisteria stems constricting and girdling living tree trunks several inches in diameter over decades. When you try to remove established wisteria from a wooden fence, you discover that the plant and the fence have become a single structure. The stems have grown through every joint, around every post, through every board gap. Pulled wisteria and sections of fence come with it. The removal and the fence replacement are the same project. If you are unsure which wisteria you have, look at the bloom time and arrangement. American wisteria blooms after the leaves emerge, in shorter clusters. Japanese wisteria blooms before the leaves in long, trailing clusters of exceptional beauty. The beauty is real, so is the cost. Check your fence line. If you have Asian wisteria and it is young, now is the right time to make a decision. Plant 8, Calorie pear, the tree that passed a background check. Bradford pear was one of the most planted ornamental trees in America for 40 years. Neighborhoods planted entire streets of them. Commercial properties installed them in rows. It produced white spring flowers, turned red in fall, and grew quickly enough to provide the size and presence homeowners wanted. Ohio, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina have now prohibited it. More states are following. The Bradford pear was always sterile, meaning the original cultivar could not self-pollinate and produce seeds. That was true. What changed is that as multiple calorie pear cultivars were planted near each other across the country, they cross-pollinated. The offspring, wild calorie pear, are not sterile, not thornless, not well-behaved. They are aggressively thorned, fast-growing, and now colonizing pastures, forest edges, and roadsides throughout the eastern half of the country in ways that are genuinely difficult to reverse. The tree also has a structural flaw that was never adequately disclosed. All of its major branches attach to the trunk at extremely narrow angles, producing what arborists call included bark at the attachment point, meaning the branch is not deeply fused to the trunk. It is essentially sitting against the trunk rather than growing from it. Under ice load, wind load, or simply under the weight of the mature crown, Bradford pear splits. Not bends, not cracks, splits, typically right down the center, at 15 to 20 years of age, when the tree is at its most beautiful and its heaviest. The split usually lands on whatever is below it. If you have Bradford pear along your fence line, have a certified arborist assess the co-dominant structure. If the included bark is already pronounced, the responsible decision is removal before the weather makes that decision for you. The ornamental value is real. So is the timing of the failure. Plant 9, Kudzu, and the reason I saved it for last. I promised you at the beginning of this video that by the time we reached the final plant, I wanted you to go outside and look at your fence line. Here is why I saved this one for last. Kudzu is still being sold in certain markets. It appears in online plant listings. Well-meaning neighbors have shared cuttings of it. Homeowners have found it growing at the edge of a property, and because it covers a fence beautifully in a single season, decided to encourage it rather than remove it. 1 foot of new growth per day under good conditions. It climbs and smothers trees 80 feet tall. It is federally listed as a noxious weed and regulated or prohibited in most states east of the Mississippi. The aerial photographs of kudzu-consumed hillsides in the southeast are not exaggerations. They are the plant, behaving exactly as designed. There is no practical residential eradication method. Professional chemical suppression programs span multiple years. Any gap in the program allows the enormous starch reserves in the root crown to regenerate the entire above-ground structure within a single growing season. Homeowners who have inherited kudzu on a property describe it in terms that sound like a natural disaster rather than a landscaping problem. If you see kudzu offered for sale, walk past it. If you find it growing on your property, even a small patch, even something that looks manageable, treat it as a time-sensitive problem than a convenient cover. The longer it establishes, the more expensive the solution becomes. Now go look at your fence line. Before I bring this together, I want to give you what you actually came here for, the safe alternative for every situation these plants were meant to solve. You need fast, tall, year-round screening in zones 3 through 8. Thuja Green Giant gives you 3 to 5 feet per year, matures at 40 feet. Deer-resistant, no serious disease concerns, root system that stays where you put it. You have a narrow lot and cannot give up 4 feet of yard width to a hedge full speed. A hedge American pillar arbor vitae reaches 15 to 20 feet tall and stays only 3 to 5 feet wide. Serious height, minimal footprint. You are in the south and everything you have tried burns out in July. The wax myrtle is native to your climate, pushes up to 5 feet of growth per year, tolerates pruning, and was built for the exact conditions that kill imported. Evergreens. Your fence line runs in heavy shade, and arbor vitae won't survive it. Cherry laurel handles, partial to heavy shade, grows 2 to 3 feet per year, and produces white fragrant flowers in spring. You want privacy and a physical deterrent. Nellie R. Stevens holly is dense, spiny, deer-proof, dog-resistant, and displays red berries through winter. A row of established Nellie R. Stevens is a living wall that genuinely bites back, and it does it while looking beautiful from your side of the yard. Drop your state and your fence line situation in the comments right now. Full sun or shade, wide open or a narrow strip, wet soil or dry. That is all I need. I read every one of those comments, and I build content around what the people actually watching this channel are dealing with. Your yard deserves better than what they sold you. You know what better looks like now. Go plant it.